Hello, my name is Father Michael Cusato. I'm a Franciscan friar living here at the Monastery of the Holy Land in Washington, D.C. But actually I'm a member of the Sacred Heart Province in the Midwest, headquartered in St. Louis. Although the theme of the heart of Jesus has occurred in Christianity throughout the centuries, it was only until the late 17th century that the devotion to the Sacred Heart that we know today actually came in full force, in real earnest. That happened through the efforts of a French Catholic priest from Western France called John Eudes. And he developed a whole liturgical celebration of the Sacred Heart for his parish church in Rennes in Western France, but it was very localized. 3 years later, another French Catholic, a French religious sister by the name of Margaret Mary Lacoque, in the monastery of Paray-le-Monial, began having a series of visions which she characterized as showing her the Sacred Heart of Jesus. The first vision in 1373 took place on the 27th of December. That was the feast of St. John the Evangelist. And in the gospel reading, it's the one where John, the beloved disciple, leans against the breast of Jesus at the Last Supper. That becomes the foundation, really, for her vision of being close to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. In a third vision, a couple years later, she heard the heart of Jesus saying to her, "Behold, this is my heart which loves the human race so much, and yet I receive only ingratitude rather than gratitude for this." From this point forward, the devotion to the Sacred Heart gets coupled with the theme of reparation. In other words, asking for forgiveness for leaving beside, for ignoring the outpouring of the love of God in the heart of Jesus for humanity. But it's going to take another 2 centuries, at the very end of the 19th century, when another religious sister by the name of Mary of the Divine Heart writes the Pope, Leo XIII, and asks him, implores him to consecrate not just the Church, but the entire human race to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And he does so in 1899, raising this celebration to the level of a solemnity in the Roman Church. But he also couples that devotion with the institution of what we today call the celebration of the First Fridays, which are moments in which we express our forgiveness and ask for reparation for having ignored and turned back the outpouring of the love of God in the heart of Jesus. So what might that mean for us? Of course, the image of the heart is meant to express the very center, the very core, the fullness of the personality, if you will, of God in Christ Jesus. That's the heart, the center of emotions, the center of love. But it's not just a heart. It is a wounded heart. And every depiction of the Sacred Heart always has 2 elements in it. You have the heart pierced with the lance, and you have the heart surrounded by a crown of thorns. In other words, the image of the Sacred Heart always evokes the passion, which is the fullest expression for God's fullest outpouring of love for us, so that we might have love as his friends. Let me leave you with an image. Some of us may know people who suffer from a condition known as an enlarged heart. An enlarged heart occurs when something begins to constrict or restrict the flow of blood into the heart, endangering that heart. Almost reflexively, the human heart then begins to beat faster and harder to ensure the inflow of the lifeblood that's needed for the life of that heart and the life and health of the person. But as a result, the heart becomes wounded. Its walls are thickened, drier, harder. That heart has been weakened in the process. So it is with the Sacred Heart of Jesus. When we do things in our lives to constrict or restrict or keep at bay the inflowing of God's life and love into our lives, that heart of Jesus starts to beat faster and harder to ensure that we have life and that we have health in our life. It's always there available for us. And yet, in the process, that heart gets wounded. And so we ask for forgiveness for those times when we do not allow of the Lord into our lives. Let me leave you then with an image. The Sacred Heart of Jesus is really a celebration of love, God's love for us. We are always reminded in this feast that the spiritual life is always a heart-to-heart conversation. And so we should, like the beloved disciple, always make it our task to lean a little bit more closely onto the breast of Jesus so as to hear the beating of his heart of love for us and allow that love to come into our lives and give us health and salvation.